Thank you so much for bringing me out here. I'm really honored. I lost my voice in 1981. I was 11 years old, and I had a dad who was one of those chaps that thought Britain still had an empire. Britain still has an empire. Men don't kiss, men don't hug, and stop calling Gibraltar a pibble. And so he didn't... She gets it. Thank you very much. That's someone friendly in the room. So he didn't appreciate my more effeminate personality traits, so he sent me to this posh all-boys school, where there's a lot of teachers walking around in black cloaks as if they were cosplaying Darth Vader with an inferiority complex. But you didn't speak unless you were spoken to, and dissension of any kind was sort of beaten out of you with a cane. If you were half Indian like I was, that was beaten out of you with a cane. So my voice instead was hidden in the movies that I really loved, like Masada. And obviously I'm sucking up to the people in the room with that one. No, I really did like it. So Peter O'Toole is very, very good in Masada. And The Great Escape, which I really enjoyed as well. And after I'd finished doing time at school, I fled England. I made The Great Escape from England because I believed the marketing that came with American TV shows in the 80s, from The Bionic Woman to Dallas, obviously sucking up to the people who remember the 80s, which promised that I could find my voice in a land where anything was possible. But the foreign exchange company unfortunately screwed up, and instead of sending me to live with Cagney and Lacey in one of the three cities I'd heard of, New York, Los Angeles, and Miami, because of Miami Vice, it's a TV show, Miami. Never mind. They sent me to live with a family of Mormons in New Albany, Indiana. It didn't quite work out. So when I finally transitioned in 2007, I tried to find my voice as a woman, but it was lost under the noise of a society that was still coming to grips with the people behind this long acronym that keeps increasing in letters. And this LGBTQ IACOC DOD FYI SOS community, sorry, I forgot POP, still coming to grips with its own acronym. So for 4 years as a senior reporter with Windy City Times, I walked between the various silos of this community, and I gave voice to its stories, and those stories made me wealthier than Gates or Buffett, and I'll never forget them. I mean, I can't single out anyone. There was the gay couple who stayed married through Alzheimer's, and they loved each other through the turmoil of that disease and through the death at the end of that disease. There was a black transgender woman who spent 4 years in a Cook County jail, in the male division of a Cook County jail, for defending herself from an attack, and she spent 4 years without a trial. And I covered that story for 2 years. I went to visit her every 2 weeks, and I'll never forget it. We changed each other's lives. I mean, she's sitting in the worst place on earth, and she still made me laugh, and I still made her laugh whenever I told her the joke about the blonde and the rowing oar. And, well, there's this blonde, and there's a rowing, never mind. She really did. She changed my life. There were the fierce gay men who stormed an alderman's office, because that's what you do in Chicago, and they got arrested to force attention on his disdain for the homeless in the city. And there was a Japanese gay man who was placed in a concentration camp when he was in Idaho, when he was just 2 years old, and now he still teaches others about the dangers of hatred. So I won't forget it. The artists, the teachers, the friends, people who were holding each other's hands and lifting each other up. Hundreds of stories that I can remember just as if I was telling them just yesterday. And so I found this landscape in which our silos were placed to be vast and beautiful, but also there was a great ugliness growing inside it, and that was in no small part to something that Laverne Cox once said, that hurt people hurt people. So 2 weeks ago, I ran afoul of that ugliness, obviously, by reporting on this growing cancerous sore within the community. That instead of sticking to a narrative that all our issues were the result of right-wing attackers, I simply wrote about a scene that demonstrated that we're pretty good at causing problems for ourselves sometimes. Any song of freedom that has to be belted out with a clear voice, the jarring discordant racket of voice, wailing notes like intersectionality, privilege, systems of oppression, safe space, and pinkwashing may have sounded perfectly logical coming out of the mouth of a semi-stoned CUNY or UIC professor. But when it's put into practice, it basically has us tearing into each other like we're shoppers at a Walmart Thanksgiving Day sale and mud wrestling competition. So the rest of the world shook their heads in astonishment, some with a smug, "What did we tell you about the left?" while the voices of these three girls who went to a pride march were silenced. And then the reporter who told the story. When you lose your voice, even for 2 weeks, the isolation is unbearable. Your addiction to telling stories, and you all know about that, it's addictive, but it's yanked out of your vein, of the vein in your arm, and you're told to go cold turkey. And instead of telling stories, you have to convince some mid-level marketer at Hardee's that gay people like to eat shit as well. I mean, you want to write, but who's reading? You want to cry out, but who's listening? Well, he's been honored a lot tonight, but Ben Cohen did. Thank you, Ben. So he called me up and he said, I believe you lost something. Oh, damn, he's not Scottish, is he? So, I believe you lost something. No, I can't do it. Alec Guinness, by the time I finished speaking my words, you could have written them down. No, he's caught me, but I can't. Sorry, Ben. Sorry, it's all right. But he says, I believe you lost something, all right? And the brilliance of what he did was that even though my words covered the space of a single sentence, he found my voice and he amplified it. And that's because I believe Ben, his colleagues, most of the people in this room know what a rare and enviable position we are in. We don't have to own the narrative of our community, we just have to see it. If we see the entire landscape, not just a blade of grass, our breath is stopped by its magnificence. And it's within that landscape that people will leave their political, social silos in defense of the greater good. I'll give you one example before I go. One of the outlets which picked up Ben's story was Breitbart. Now, I am very far left I'm so far left of center, I'm out the exit door and down the street somewhere. I'm a transgender Jewish woman, but I had messages from Breitbart readers saying, I'd read your stuff on Breitbart any day of the week. Well, all right. I mean, it might be fun, leaving a stack of clippings on Alexander Marlowe's doorstep, ringing the doorbell and running away. The point is that although we're very much maligned as journalists these days, so much maligned that lawyers are coming up with mean jokes about us, that we do what no one else can, whether they're politicians or a pencil pusher. We can look over the walls that people build between themselves and we can demolish them. They say our profession is dying. They say that we're obsolete or fake. But as long as we can see our communities, as long as we are brave enough to amplify their voices, and as long as we make sure that we never lose our own, thank you, Barry, our stories will not be silenced. And thank you for making sure that mine never was.